So let's start off with the biggest story of all. And it's good because it's an in story. And it's where we like to start with a little bit of positivity. There are links. We'll start with Alvarez, but there are also links with Sesko. There's talk about Isak. I think all of those I have very definite opinions on. The rank and file of journos range from Mr. Sam Maguire, ex of this parish, to young Pornstein, and of course Mr. Romano throwing in his tuppence worth as well. So let's start with that Alvarez story, Dave, because it's huge and there's so many angles to it, including a potential outgoing that might be linked to it.
It's mad that this broke on Friday evening, wasn't it? About 4 days ago. And with everything that happened, Trev, it seems an eternity ago in a way. But literally on Friday evening, Sam Maguire came out, that pesky little bugger, didn't he, with an exclusive saying that Liverpool have Julian Alvarez on their radar. And we had a little bit of hope because we had the last January of the Hodgson kind of like, oh, but now we're like, we're a new meme, like, you're telling me there's a chance, Jim Carrey style. So we were a bit excited about this one. And listen, for various reasons, goals, assists, the player, Premiership pedigree, him banging in goals against Real Madrid, Barcelona the other night, that this is a player we were like, yes, you can easily envisage this boy being a forward for Liverpool. No doubts about it at all. Also, as was mentioned last summer, and Sam Maguire, to be fair, mentioned it in his article, that Liverpool looked at him last summer. And this is really important for anyone that doubted that and may missed it. His agent, Trev Hidalgo, and came out and said, yes, we did speak to Liverpool representatives last summer, but naturally the deal wasn't done. And as Sam mentions, and it's true, City were never going to sell to us, were they? And the player back to Simeone, Argentina. But it's important to remember that it's a fact that the agent has said Liverpool were interested. So that's the first one on the scoreboard. Now, he also said, the agent, it's the wrong time to talk about my client's future because of important tournaments. And this was before the Champions League and various things. So that made sense. Then, Trev, even today, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Carlos Bossero, what a name for a sporting director, Atletico, Bossman, I'm sure they called him. He said, talking about Liverpool making an official offer to sign our player is not true. And what is being circulated is just rumours. He is a key and important player in our project, and we have no intention of abandoning him. Now, it is important to remember, because I've seen people talk about this and misquote it. Sam Maguire's article does not say Liverpool have made an offer. Let's just be crystal clear on that. It says Liverpool are interested in the player and intrigued, and also mentioned that last summer, you know, when he's amongst many other players, which we'll come to. So the fact that Bosero's saying that, he's almost answering a point that wasn't asked, if that makes sense, which is a little bit strange. But it's the fact that he says he is a key player. We have no intention of abandoning him. And I get that. People are saying so. There's zero chance with Alvarez, not a go whatsoever. My only point to that would be, and just for the record, people, this is not me saying that I think it will happen. It's likely anything like that. Trev, what are you expecting Mr. Bostero to say? Yes, he's our player right now, but we are going to try for a fat fee in the summer and all that type. Like, what are we honestly expecting the sporting director, Atletico Madrid, to say at this time? Of course he's going to deny it. Of course he's going to do this. Absolutely. Now, again, from digging and trying to get as much as we can, and also messaging Sam to go, what the fuck, Maguire? Where was our info or heads up type of thing a little bit as well, and trying to go around. It has been a case of, yeah, Liverpool have got an interest in this player. It is clear, it's obvious, no doubts about it. Does that make him likely to go to Anfield? I am not going to put a percentage on that and say I think there's this chance, because we just don't know. We're just guessing, in all honesty. But what is clear from digging around, Liverpool do like this player. Now, this is where we can proper get 2 and 2 and make 27. And I love a good jump, as you know, Trev. Ignore the fact it's Ben Jacobs, spoofer, and, think about everything that's come out recently. It came out last summer. Atletico Madrid do like Darwin Núñez. And it's come out with a few today, Edo Burgos and Ben Jacobs saying that, they do like him. And the problem is, I think it's pie in the sky anyway from this, but make it out, it's a 35 to 40 million euro bid for Darwin Núñez. I mean, let's be honest. We know what we turned down from the Saudis in January, so it's not going to jump down that much, is it? Let's be honest. But people, all we can say is, as we mentioned last time, our info is that Atletico Madrid like Darwin Núñez. Does that mean there's going to be a definitive swap for Julian Alvarez? No, that is just random speculation. But we are on the transfer show. We love speculation. We love the fact that Liverpool are being linked with a player like Julian Alvarez, and it's a realistic lick. Is it a realistic move? That's a different question. But him and a couple of others, Trev, we are talking incomings for once.
That is so exciting as a story. A few things that come to mind there. First of all, I think Alvarez as a profile of a player would be just kind of ideal for us. And of course, you come to realize, don't you, that everything's up for grabs at the moment. We'll get back to that. That's kind of the big topic that I want to discuss, because it's been just eating my mind alive. How much up for grabs everything and everybody is. But dude, look at that lad's cheekbones. Like, how can we not want to? How can we not want to sign those cheekbones if nothing else? But here's the thing that's eating me, right? I understand what you're saying about the valuation, and I understand that we're talking about a Romano-style spoofer here as well. But if there's anything to it, and we do know that there was a little bit of interest from Atletico in the past in Darwin, if there's anything to it, the valuation could be wildly different because it might be part of an exchange. So that's where you'd have to begin to sort of maybe, let's allow the dream to live in our brains for a second. And that's the only thing that makes sense to me. But my question to you is the one that I asked you when we were chatting earlier on WhatsApp. Do you see any way in the world that Diego Simeone does that deal? That's what kind of kills me. Now, you had an interesting angle on this, and I'd like you to repeat it for the listeners and the viewers.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, it seems a stretch. I mean, the valuations seem wildly different, especially as we talked about with the Saudis and what they were prepared to pay for Darwin in the summer, or in Jan, just gone. I wouldn't rule it out, Trev, completely. I think it's still a bit of a stretch because of the difference in the valuations between the two. But I can also see Núñez. He is a Simeone style forward, isn't he? He's a bit mad. He's a bit crazy. He'd run his heart out. He's got pace, and he would press and go from there. And now, to be honest, I swear I said something else in the WhatsApp, but I can't remember because we've exchanged about 8,000 messages today. So I probably said something else to you.
It was mostly that idea of the profile of him as a nut job, maybe fitting in nicely with the nut job that is Diego Simeone. But you can see in the comments, man, it's wild. Like, so many people have such strong opinions. Some people there hate Alvarez. Some people think, Alvarez, what chance have we got of getting that guy? It's And by the way, lad, knock yourselves out in there, but please don't expect us to be engaging with the more extreme stuff, because that's not what we do here. You did mention another couple of names though, and I want to keep focusing on the incomings or potential incomings before we start getting back to the ridiculous amount of outgoing stories. So let's have a look, if we could, at the idea of Sesko, because we'll finish with Isak only because I think it's probably even less likely than an Alvarez, primarily for a couple of things. One, the money. Two, the fact that Newcastle will have ambitions now. Why would they want to let their player go, who's their best player and apparently beloved by the owners as well? So we'll put that on the back burner. Let's go to the Sesko thing, because obviously we are going to have to recruit at least a striker, if not four, depending on your worry level. What's the angle with that? I hadn't seen those stories recently at all.
Yeah, Sam mentioned Benjamin Sesko, the Slovenian, the Red Bull Leipzig forward, big, tall stature. Almost in a way, I think you could describe him as profile, a bit like Darwin Núñez is in a physical profile, quite tall, quick, not electric, I wouldn't say, but very quick for his size, gets quite a few headed goals. I think the thing with Sesko is there's just such a gap, to be honest, between Alvarez and Isak to Sesko. It's so pronounced. Sesko would feel more like one of those gamble signings a little bit, but the problem is when you're gambling, when you're taking a punt, you're probably taking a punt, Trev, at something like 60 million or around that mark, because people do keep saying there's a release clause for Benjamin Sesko. That is not quite the case. There is a gentleman's agreement, as many will tell you, between Leipzig and Sesko when he signed his renewal, that based on various factors, he can be allowed to leave for a certain amount. So there was offers for him last summer. He chose to stay, probably quite wisely at Red Bull Leipzig, to further his career and develop that way. The big problem is, and it's funny that I'll put this on the screen because John P's just said this. Me and Bart's did a show and profiled on him the other way. Very almost Nunes style, doesn't quite carry the profile of a standard striker, long distance shooting. I called him a bit of a FIFA player, a bland merchant, a highlights reel. So doesn't quite stack up with what we'd be looking for, maybe not as refined. So all the info we've got is, yeah, absolutely. We've looked at Sesko. He is being considered. My worry about Sesko is, Trev, if he comes to real fruition, it means we're probably at 5 and 6 on the list, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And I'm glad you highlighted that comment, because any of the good analysis that's being done by people like Bart's behind the scenes here on the channel, we want to amplify as much as possible. So it's good to see that. And yeah, it's a very valid point as well. Quite what Arne Slot wants, though, I think is probably evolving. I think just as his ability to manage in the Champions League is going to evolve on the back of the exit to PSG the other night, I think there may be some sea changes in how he goes about managing in the Premier League, and with the profile of player that he's looking for and with his ideas for tactics, it stands to reason there'll be some evolution. The last one is Isak, and you can already hear people saying that's not going to happen, never going to happen, too much money, blah, blah, blah. Okay, right. Well, but it's the most persistent rumor by a mile, and we saw how effective he is. He had the ball in the net against us twice on Sunday. He's clearly excellent and would be tremendous, but it does seem as though the valuation that we're hearing being mentioned would be something that would be entirely prohibitive, unless we do end up doing something like selling our entire front line, which, people can laugh all they want. And it's, yeah. I actually heard, Dave, someone say, oh, well, you want to get rid of all these guys who've gotten us to 12 points clear at the top of the league. Nobody said we want to get rid of them. I don't want to get rid of any of them. I'd like to keep Darwin. I'd like to keep Shota. I'd like to keep Mo. I'd like to keep every one of our attackers, actually. But the point is, Diaz is the only one who I think may actually be happier to go. And I think Nunes is probably not going to make it to be what we want him to be. But I still like these guys. It's not about wanting to get rid of them. It's about what's looking likely. You've got Jota, who is going to be worth some money now when he gets back from injury and gets a run of play. You've got Nunes, who we've been offered huge amounts of money for.
Yeah.
And who might decide to take the bag and look after his family. And Diaz might do the same. And then you've got Mo Salah, who we can't seem to offer enough money to for reasons. So, that entire unit is up for grabs, Dave. That's the reality of it. That's how we have to. That's how we have to talk about this. So, let's talk about Isak just to wrap this up in terms of a really high-profile, tremendous sort of plug-and-play, top-notch, top-tier player that we could go and get if we were to sell 2 or 3 of those boys.
Yeah, a little bit different from the others. I mean, the question mark is around Isak's injury record, isn't it? I think that's what people, and I understand, look at more than anything for a big money signing. You can't just ignore that at all. But different, whereas Alvarez is a goal scorer, but also more of a facilitator, a more all-round player. Sesko, as I called him, a bit of a bland merchant, more potential. As you said, Isak is a plug-and-play, ready-made elite 9. Through the middle striker, gets goals. And if anyone doubts that, unfortunately, as we found out, he likes a goal against us. We've proved that, haven't we? Time and time again, he does score. He is an elite finisher. He's in probably your top, 3-5 forwards in the world. I don't think you'd find anyone to debate that in the number 9 position right now. You're right. It's so bizarre, Trev, that I think what people struggle to reconcile is there's so many hurdles, as we said on the last show, that if Newcastle get the Champions League, I think that knocks it down anyway. Guess who style? Forget that. Number one, the fee, the injury record, all those things you can stack as in not going to happen. I get that completely. However, the reason we talk about this, Sam Maguire, David Ornstein, Romano, other patch journalists have clearly said Liverpool like Alexander Isak, and that name just doesn't go away. And the one thing also to sort of play on, when The Athletic did a Q&A with David Ornstein, he was asked a generic question about, Liverpool. Who are they looking at? Not like, are they looking at A, B, C? And he asked about the forward line. He says, I've not heard too much. What I have heard, though, is Liverpool are in and like Alexander Isak. So it's not us just springing a name from nowhere. Let's be clear on that. This name just keeps coming up time and time again. And I get people, like you said, they're not going to happen. We know about the Champions League. We know about the fee. We know about the injury record. But we can't just ignore a name that is mentioned time and time again.
Yeah, I was really enjoying your little list of journalists there. It felt like that, was it Norwegian dude back in the day? Maggie Thatcher, that one is just like, and it will be, those boys will take one hell of a beating if none of these stories pan out, except they won't really, will they? Because they can't lose. And you see, this is what we have to understand about it. It's not to suggest or to denigrate any of these guys with their intentions. I'm sure they honestly report information as they get it, for the most part. But it just does feel a bit like they can't lose anyway, because you just throw the story out there. Everyone's going to go wild reacting to it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it does happen, you're the greatest man in the world. Look at you were there first. It's a kind of win-win scenario for the boys, to be fair to them. And a lot of people there in the chat talking about the availability of our top choice there, Isak, and it's a fine point. To be fair, it is a fine point. We're not going to want to get rid of, say, Diogo Jota, and take in someone who has, an equally patchy injury history. That doesn't make any sense. No. And you mentioned Alvarez isn't 100% there either. So it's what do we know? But these are the stories we're having to deal with. And you may have noticed, I'm treading water in the happy section a little bit, because at least we're talking about people coming in. Because all we've got to do now, dude, is talk about, we just focused on the strikers. Now let's talk about the defenders, all of whom look like they're up for grabs as well, because there is wild Virgil stuff going on. We'll go there first. But linked to that, and separate to that, but somehow linked to that in my mind, and I think in reality, is Konate stuff. And linked to Trent, and absolutely joined at the hip with Trent, is the Bradley stuff that's going on in terms of his contract. Yeah. And we're going to keep returning to the fact that agents are in a good spot just now with Liverpool Football Club. And why would they do anything until they get exactly what they want? So let's start with the Virgil stuff. We can't avoid it any longer. What do we make of it? Where is it coming from? How truthful do you think it is? Because I've seen stuff there from the international manager, Koeman, and I'll be honest with you, they're the quotes that freak me out the most.